him, when his best friends turn on him, where is he today? That's a question you need to ask. Where are you today, Boateng? Where are you today? I'm not going to cuss you down. I'm asking you. You supported your friends. Your friends, what did they do to you just a few weeks ago? And now you've got no place to run to, back to us. Brothers is that he is not the issue tonight. The issue tonight is that we've got a fantastic sister, a queen with us tonight, Sister Katie. And you know, I'm ignorant when it comes to the compensation scheme. That's why I brought this sister on tonight. And I'll thank you for coming in your hundreds. I know we've got over 400 plus on laptops. It doesn't include those of you that are on your tablets and whatever. Okay, I'll get that number tomorrow morning. But it's an honor to have so many of you on here tonight. We want to know the truth. Is the government guilty of stopping us from knowing the reality of what's due to us? Who can claim, who can't claim? I don't know the answers, but we're going to have some questions and answers with our queen, Sister Katie. Sister Katie, how you doing, my sister?
Greetings, brother. Good evening, all, and thank you for inviting me onto your platform. I'm doing very well at the moment. Thank you.
I was so impressed, sister. You know, as I was saying, this is the first time we're actually meeting like this. I've seen some of your work, and I loved your caption about Bun Babylon. Rumble, I'm never going to go there tonight. But sister, I love your revolutionary spirit. I'm going to say that from day one. I love your revolutionary spirit. Sis, we really want you to educate us tonight into dispelling the myths. I know that several people, I know a whole lot of people have downloaded the forms that you wanted to be downloaded before we started tonight's session.
Yes.
And sister, I'm really going to keep my mouth shut now and ask you to, you know, introduce yourself and take us through what you need to present to us, give us the facts. And then at the end, we can do a question and answer series.
Okay, no problem.
So
I'm just going to share my screen so that my presentation comes on to the screen so that everyone can see it. So I'm going to go through my presentation, and then hopefully people will be able to ask questions at the end. So please, everyone, if you can hold your questions until the end, and then it will help my presentation flow more smoothly.
Can I just add, Sister Katie?
Yes.
Sisters, if you've got questions and answers that you don't want to say yourself, there's a Q&A box. There's a Q&A box in your line of functions there. Go into the Q&A box. Type out your questions there, and we've got a beautiful team behind the scenes, Sister Samira, Sister Jarita, Brother Jamie. They will collate your questions and ask it on your behalf. So if you do want to ask questions, please use the Q&A box. Some of you may want to verbally articulate your questions, and we try and put in as many questions we can to, because this is a very serious subject matter. Thank you, Sister Katie.
Thank you, brother. Yes, so I will just introduce myself because I'm aware that some people on this event this evening will have saw me for the first time this evening. So my name's Katie Wilson Downey, and I do these events out of my own time and out of my own will. So I'm not funded, I'm not supported by the Home Office, I'm not supported by any organisations or whatever. The reason why I decided to bring this to the community is because my father come to the UK from Jamaica in 1971. So my father was a part of those who arrived in the time of the Windrush scandal. And I've always been aware of that. So being aware of that, when I found out about the Windrush compensation scheme back in 2018, 2019, I knew that it was relating to my father. So I called my father and I told him about the scheme. He hadn't heard of it. I supported him to complete the application first, and then I supported my elder brother. And my elder brother has a particular case because my elder brother was not born in the Caribbean. My father joined the British Army, but he was invited to come to the UK and be in the British Army by the Queen, by the establishment. So he received a letter of invite to the UK based on the fact that he was a young male who was physically fit and mentally fit as well. So my elder brother was actually born on a British Army base in Germany. My elder brother was never born in the Caribbean, and he's never left the UK since arriving as a small child. My elder brother's mum is also Jamaican, and he flew from Germany, from the Army Military Hospital to the UK back in the 1970s. So when my brother flew to the UK, he flew on his mum's Jamaican passport. Due to this, the UK government are trying to say that my brother's Jamaican as in nationality. So all this time, my brother, who's in his 40s, has never had a passport. He's never had physical ID. He's never been able to apply for a driver's license, and he struggled with employment and education and housing all throughout his life. I understand there's many people in those circumstances, and now so do the government. Now, one of the main reasons why they're offering this compensation to our community is because there's a piece of legislation called the British Nationality Act. The British Nationality Act 1981 stipulates that anyone that was born in a British Commonwealth nation that arrived in the UK before 1973 should never be deported from the UK. Well, actually, the legislation stipulates that anyone born in a British Commonwealth nation is a British subject. A British subject, it's a term that means that you're British, but you weren't born in England, for example. You were born in a British Commonwealth, a nation that was owned by Britain. So anyone that was born in the Caribbean before those times was a British subject, meaning that you should never be denied the rights to the UK services such as the NHS, education, housing, employment, and all of that. We know that our community have been denied those services, although they were legally British. So they should have never been denied services. And that also means they never, ever, ever should have been detained under the Immigration Act, and nor should they have been deported because they were British by birth. This is the big mistake they've made. All right. So now we're going to go into the presentation. So actually, the reason why I decided to do events and my presentation is because after speaking to my father and my brother, I spoke to members of the community, and many members of our community that arrived in the UK before 73 that are eligible for the scheme are not aware of the scheme. I've been doing these events online for over a year and in person since April. There's many, many people that are still not aware. And some of you may have been aware of the event in the Roundwood Unity Centre in Harlesden on the 5th of November. That was my event. So, yeah, again, thank you, Brother Andrew, for providing me with a platform this evening. So in this presentation, what I will be speaking about is I'm going to be speaking about the eligibility criteria. So what does it mean to be eligible? I will be speaking about collecting your evidence. So what evidence is needed in order for you to make your application as strong as possible, because the stronger your application, the higher the compensation award. And like any other compensation claim, you need evidence to kind of substantiate your claim. And then we'll be looking at the application process. So what will happen once you send off your completed application and what to expect. So this is the introduction. So as I was saying, in this presentation, we'll be discussing why the compensation scheme was awarded, who's eligible, how to apply, what evidence is required, how the process should go, and what to do if you do not agree with a decision made by the Home Office. So, for example, if they tell you that you're not eligible, but you strongly believe that you are, you can appeal. Or if they give you an offer that's actually much lower than you think that you should be awarded. By the way, each successful application starts at £10,000. £10,000 is the least amount that anyone can get. Okay, the maximum amount per person is £100,000 per person, unless of course you've got discretionary grounds, and then that cap may not apply to you and to your experience. So the Windrush Compensation Scheme was created by the UK Home Office and the UK Government as an apology for the poor experiences and traumatic effects from the Windrush Scheme. In 2018, it emerged that many people who entered the country during the Windrush era had lost their homes, or have never been given homes, jobs, access to welfare benefits and the NHS service, while some were wrongly detained and even deported and returned to their homelands. Now, most of the Caribbean islands were British Commonwealth nations, and some African nations were British Commonwealth nations as well. So this scheme is wider than the Caribbean. It's wider than Africa. There's even some Asian nations that were Commonwealth nations before this time. However, if you look at how this is being promoted, it's only really being promoted by the BBC back in 2018 or 2019, and they didn't know much about the scheme. So in their reports, they make it as if it's just for Caribbeans or just for Jamaicans, when it isn't. There's many nations on there. There's even like the South American Caribbean countries such as Guyana or Montserrat. They're also eligible for the scheme as well. So you can claim for things such as loss of earnings, period of detention, or even other things such as paying for your neutralization or naturalization. Even if you didn't pay and you got it for free, which some people did, going through that process to become British when you was already British is a violation. It's a violation of your rights or your grandparents' rights or your parents' rights. So with this compensation scheme, if you're eligible as someone who come before the 1st of January 1973 from a British Commonwealth nation, your children are likely to be eligible and your grandchildren as well, but you must demonstrate how this has impacted their lives, which we are going to go into detail later on in the presentation. As I said, the number one criteria is if you entered the UK before the 1st of January 1973, I need you to write this down. Everybody should be taking notes, by the way, because it's likely that everyone in this meeting is likely to be eligible either because of themselves or because of their close family member who arrived in the UK from a British Commonwealth nation before the 1st of January 1973. Now, I must advise you that anything that's written in my presentation can be found. I've got a reference list at the end of my presentation, which you're all welcome to see and you're all welcome to note down and research yourself. Everything written in my presentation is factual, okay? But please do research it. It's very important that we don't just take things for face value. So everything that people tell you, always double check it. That's how you truly know, all right? So, here's a list of some of the eligible nations. There's St. Lucia. This is not all of them in its entirety, so it's important that you do look on the government website. I'll read out the website later where you can look and to see whether your nation's on the list. And even if it isn't, and you know it was a British Commonwealth and you know that you arrived before the 1st of January 1973, then you know that you meet the initial eligibility criteria. There's a further criteria, but that's the number one most important criteria that is going to let you know whether you are eligible to apply to the scheme or not. So there's St. Lucia, Seychelles, Sierra Leone, Solomon Islands, South Africa, St. Georgia and the Sandwich Islands, Sri Lanka, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Swaziland, Tanzania, the Bahamas, the Gambia, Tonga, Trinidad and Tobago, Uganda, Virgin Islands, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Again, there's a whole range of nations that I've not read out that are eligible for the scheme. So, eligibility. You can apply to the scheme if you've had losses because you could not prove your right to stay in the UK. You can apply if you've had losses if you are the partner, child, brother, sister, or parent of someone who could not prove their right to stay in the UK. And this also means the children that got left alone in our home nations that never made it to the UK, but their parents or other close family member made it to the UK from a British Commonwealth nation before the 1st of January 1973. Yes, that's what I said. I said that our family members that are left abroad that never made it are also eligible for the scheme as a close family member.
Sister,
also who's eligible. Yes.
Sister, this is serious what you're saying then, beloved. This
Big
is
and serious,
serious.
brother. Yes. And economics is an area where we as the Black community in the West are failing. Our Nigerian brothers and sisters are doing very well and they're richer than some of the white Europeans, but us Caribbeans, we are failing. Now, once I've gone through the presentation, you're going to understand how they entrap us into making sure that we are financially below what we are supposed to be kind of earning. And you will get to see this. With this, they have used this as an agenda in order to keep chains on us, in order to keep us poor and separated as family. But also now, this is why it's so important for us all to apply to the scheme. Even if you think, well, maybe I am, maybe I'm not eligible, the only way you're going to know is if you apply. But please do listen carefully and do make note. It's so important, because what people sometimes do is attend the presentation, sit here, listen, don't take notes, and then try and find out how they can contact me to ask questions. Just to let you know, I'm not really contactable. I'm not on social media because Instagram took my Instagram page away. I used to have lots and lots of followers, and at the moment I'm not sharing my contact details. There is a way that you can get information about the scheme, and you can contact Brother Andrew to ask questions and he can relate to me. There's Galaxy Radio, where my events are promoted. So if you listen and look into Galaxy Radio, especially I Empress Anawa's show, on a Monday or Thursday, she promotes my events for me. And if you look into Cheryl Phoenix and the Black Child Agenda's Instagram pages, then that's where you will get to see the flyers for the events. So I do face-to-face events and I do online events as well. But it's very important to listen, and to listen keenly, because this information right here is going to help you and your family get a little bit richer and get some of the finances that we deserve for the suffering that we've been through and that our foreparents have been through as well. All right. And many people scream reparations and are willing to march from Trafalgar Square to Brixton every 1st of August each year on Emancipation Day. But when it comes to filling out this form, they say, oh, well, I'm not really sure if I can write this form, or I've got dyslexia, or I can't read and write. And there's a whole heap of excuses that I hear, and it's tiring, because if you want the money, not even if you want it, you must apply for the money. Like, I'm instructing you, I'm giving you a clear instruction that you have to apply for this scheme and get the money that is owed to us. This type of money, remember what I said, the least amount what they're paying us is £10,000. It's real, it's true. I successfully applied. I applied back in 2020 and I got my money last year in 2021. I got my money in around February 2021, which was good because that's my birthday month. But I got £20,000. I'm born in the UK. My mom is a whole white woman. Only my father come from the Caribbean at this time, and I'm a mixed race and British born, and I still got £20,000. All right. The reason being is because I'm the child. The second bullet point on the page that you can all see, I am the child of someone who could not prove their right to stay in the UK, who arrived to the UK before the 1st of January 1973 from a British Commonwealth nation. Yeah. So if you listen keenly, honestly, and you follow my instructions and my advice and guidance, you are going to get money. Trust me. Now, we know the Home Office don't want to pay us. We know that they're the people who caused the oppression and still are causing the oppression, as I saw someone write in the group earlier, the group chat. They're still causing the oppression. Some of this stuff they're rewarding us for, they're still doing it today. Even with Brexit, if you look at Brexit now, enough Black people voted Brexit, and I was like, why are you voting Brexit? Because you know the first people on the plane are going to be who? Jamaicans.
Teach.
And who was it? Jamaicans. And other Black people as well, but Black people should never vote for any type of immigration act, because it's us who they come for first. They despise Caribbeans, specifically Jamaicans. Remember that the people who were taken to Jamaica were the most defiant stolen Africans, the most defiant that could not be controlled by the slave masters. Okay, so they hate us with a passion. Anyway, moving on.
Katie, stop there 1 second, sis. If you're feeling this sister right now, if you're feeling the sister, drop some damn ones in that chat room right now. If you're feeling what this sister's coming with, and turn to your brethren beside you and say, lick shot on Babylon. Jeez. Come on, sister T. Come on, man. Come on.
Yes. So we have to apply. We have to apply. Do you know
Yes.
one thing what actually really, really gets to me is, you see, there's many
All
people
yours,
that are
Martin.
there's many people in our community, our elders, right? Many people in my age range and below. I'm in my 30s, by the way. There's many people in my age range and below that are happy to say the elders failed us. The elders failed us. What have you done for us? The state of our youth now is because of you. But actually, if you see what our elders have gone through at my parents' age, 50s and 60s, what did they go through? Enough of them got left in the Caribbean by themselves. My father was one of them, right? He got left by himself at the age of 6, not by himself, with his grandma on his paternal side. But my grandfather come to the UK to be a brain surgeon, brain surgeon assistant in Birmingham. That's where he lived and that's where he died. Yeah, he come to do a good thing. My grandmother come here to get money and then to send back for her children, right? That's because they were bribed by the UK government and the Queen. They were bribed to come to the UK for a better. Remember, Jamaica and the Caribbean are still third world nations. So they were told, right, these are people living in poverty, right, without no opportunities. Like in the UK, we think we've got poverty and that's you being on benefits and choosing not to work. That's not real poverty, you know. In the Caribbean, there's no hope and no chance for most people still today. So imagine it 50, 60 years ago. So our grandparents and parents were convinced that if you come to the UK, you are going to be doing something excellent for you and for your family, your children, and for your future generations that are not even alive yet. So they thought, oh, well, you know, here is my chance. All my life I've struggled. This is my chance to move forward now. It's really hard for me to leave my children. It's very hard, but I know once I get there, the government said I can work, I can save, and I can send for my children. They'll be reunited with me in no time. That was the false promise that they were given. They did come. When they come, they weren't given the houses that they were promised. They had to sleep on floor and couch, if not in a tenement yard, which only some people got. Remember, most people were denied. Yeah. Plus, as well, when they got here, remember it was a hostile environment. Enoch Powell was the current politician at the time, a very, very, very racist man. The majority of them are, if not all of them, but Enoch Powell back then, like, you were allowed to be racist. Remember back then, the police just used to walk past white racists beating up black people. They would walk past, or they would join in, or they would laugh, or they would even kill us. They still do that today, but it's at a much lower level now. Anyway, our grandparents and parents were promised a better life when they come here to leave their children. But that child left at home doesn't understand all of that. They don't understand politics. They don't understand third world economy or first world economy. They understand I've been left alone and I feel like nobody's child. That was the generations that our parents were born into. And that's why our elders didn't do much for us, because they couldn't. They are damaged, they are traumatized at no fault of their own, must I add, right? So, for example, my father, when he was left alone at 6 years old, he grew up in his grandma's house. His grandma had other children now. He's grew up in a household where he feels like nobody's child. Many people that were left in Jamaica who were called barrel babies have similar experiences of feeling abandoned and rejected. Okay, those issues give you psychological issues, period. Even if you're track good, you can still face psychological issues. Sorry, excuse me. Let me just turn my food off. I don't want it to burn, sorry.
Brothers and sisters, I hope you're listening and you're tuned in today, brothers and sisters. You could tell that this sister's on fire. She's a phenomenal articulator of the truth. Come on, sister, teach, Katie, teach.
Yes, so you know, they got left alone as abandoned children. Now remember, the parents thought they were doing the best thing. They were promised by the UK government, who the Caribbeans looked up to at that time, right? Well, some did, but they look up to the UK. Even today, they follow our trends. You know, they follow our trends or American trends. And back then it was even worse. A lot of our elder generations were whitewashed with this white image of Jesus, who is the son of the corrupt king Caesar Borgia. But anyway, you know, they were lost, they were indoctrined, and they followed what they were guided by the devils, unfortunately. And then, you know, the children were left to be alone, to be abandoned with all of these psychological issues, and then to later either join them in the UK or remain in the Caribbean. And this is why a lot of our elder generations can't speak to their siblings. By the time my dad come from the Caribbean to the UK, his mom already had other children, his dad already had other children. So imagine being that abandoned child, and some of you have experienced it, so you don't need to imagine, unfortunately. But you know, please do forgive your parents, because it's like they were cast under a spell, basically. They were convinced and they were given a false promise that never materialized. But then for the barrel children who come here and realize their parents actually had other children, how would that make you feel as a child? To be abandoned, to learn your parents come here just to have other children. That's why our parents and grandparents haven't and couldn't do more for us than they had done. What they've done for us and what they're doing for us is the most they can and could have done. Okay, with the circumstances. Remember that when they come here, they were dealing with all these white racists and stuff like that. Many people were being attacked and killed by the police. They were promised these great jobs from the Caribbean, but when they got here, even my father, he was promised to go straight into the army. When he got here, he had to work 2 factory jobs, 80 hours a week, 80 hours a week. Now, I can't even manage my 40 hours a week career. Do you know what I mean? Never mind 80 hours a week, 2 factory jobs, just in order to make your way. And even then, remember, there was a rule: no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. So you weren't given this house that you were promised by the UK government. You were then given private, if you earned some money and well, you were fortunate enough to have an income, then you could get private yards. But then a private house, now you'd get kicked out by the landlord as soon as he'd know that you were black, or just because he's racist, or because your racist neighbors complained. Do you know what I mean? Those things still happen today, but it's a little bit harder for the racists to get you out of your building just because they don't like the race what you are. Do you know what I mean? Back then, landlords were more willing to collude with them, police were, and the whole of the institutions were more openly. Now they still do it, but it's like covert now. A lot of it is covert, or they use gatekeepers, like who was shown prior to me coming on. But anyway, the children who were left alone that come here then grew up to parent us in the UK, and this is how we that are born in the UK are eligible. So our traumatized parents who were left alone in the Caribbean come here, face racism, as well as all of the trauma from their parents, as well as the sibling conflict, because the Caribbean siblings would clash with their British siblings, and they'd call each other yardies, and you're too British, and you're so white, and why do you talk like that? You're such a white girl or white boy, or you're so much of a yardie. Why don't you go back to Jamaica? Or you're dunce, you don't know nothing. All of these bad words. Apologies if that made anyone feel negative, but I'm just showing you examples of the type of situations that this thing breeded. Now, let me make this point clear. If you look up psychological theories or conditions, right, because they love to misdiagnose us and say we've got all these conditions, but if you look up their theories, they've written theories decades before they're done to our people. Now, there's a theory, and I need everyone to listen clearly when I say these words, because you're going to research it afterwards and understand what it means. Some of you have probably lived real life, and some of you probably won't even know that there's an actual term for it. But what is more shocking, and what I'm showing you, is this psychological term, this psychological theory, this psychological condition was already theorized before this scandal. Now, the term is maternal deprivation. Maternal deprivation. What does maternal mean? It means that motherly bond between the mother and the child, or that motherly bond that a lot of our females possess naturally. Now, maternal, that's what that means. Deprivation, what does deprivation mean? Deprivation means that which you are deprived of. So maternal deprivation means you are deprived of the connection with your mother as a small child. Yeah? So if you look up the psychological theory, which is an actual condition, what they can diagnose us with, many children in the care system in the UK have it or experience it. Maternal deprivation means the disattachment between the child and its mother in early childhood. So they knew that if they separate the mother from these children, that these children who grow up are going to have psychological issues due to being separated from its mother too early in life. We're not dogs. We're not sheep. We can't just, a human can't just have a baby and then be separated from it and have no psychological effects. It's not possible. We're humans. Dogs might do it. Other mammals might do it. Other animals might do it. We are humans. If you are separated from your child and your child is separated from you, not only will your child have psychological issues, but the mother will have psychological issues as well. So I must have mentioned there's a great film coming out next month on Amazon Prime called Nanny. Nanny, it's a little bit of a different topic, but it's very important and it's relative. Nanny, it's not about Nanny Maroon. It's about a sister from Senegal, beautiful sister. She comes over from Senegal to America to go and be a nanny to rich white people. When she does that, it shows her experience of how she suffers psychologically and traumatically from being separated from her child. I need everyone to watch that just to understand what our mothers and grandmothers went through when they come to the UK, because many of their children don't speak to them. Many people my dad's age do not speak to their mothers or find it hard to repatriate their relationship once they arrived in the UK, and some of them died without ever repatriating that relationship with their mother. Some of you are sat on this meeting tonight and listening to me, and you may think, yeah, oh well, but she done this and she done this. Listen, our mothers and grandmothers went through so much leaving us, and yes, you did as well. Our parents did as well. But the reason why I'm saying this is to help you understand. We need to understand each other so there's less judgment, and we need to understand that this was ostracized, it was planned, it was designed in a way to do exactly this to us, to keep us separated. Remember that one of their main aims is what? Divide and conquer. So this is a way in which they've practiced divide and conquer with our community and kept us separated. Yes, it is one of the causes and the main factors of why you don't speak to your mum or your brothers or your sisters, and why you've never spoken to them even though you live 2 streets away. Yeah. This is one of the reasons. So understand, all right, it's not just your mom's fault or your dad's fault or your siblings' fault. We are a traumatized people and we're still going through it right now. Anyway, how does it relate to someone like me? How can someone like me be eligible for this scheme? So we understand how our parents that come in that time, or grandparents that come in that time, can be eligible. And we now understand how their children can be eligible as well if they were left alone and they also arrived a little bit later. But how do we that were born in the UK, how are we eligible? We are eligible because of this. So I'm the child of someone who come to the UK before the 1st of January 1973. Now, if you've got 2 parents who come before 73, or 2 sides of your family that also relate to the scheme, you can claim for both sides. I'll go into that a little bit later. It's very important that you listen to that as well, how to make the claim, right? Because they love telling us we're not eligible, but sometimes it's just because we haven't written it on the right application, or we haven't written it in the right way. I can't just say, I'm the child of someone who come before 1973, can you give me my money? It doesn't work like that. I wish it did, but it doesn't, right? So we do have to use a little bit of our intelligence and our kind of all right. Don't panic if you have dyslexia or your writing skills are not that good. If you listen to me and follow my advice, you're going to be able to claim, period. So how is someone like me eligible? Someone like me is eligible because I'm the daughter of someone who come before that time, right? Now, because the way that my father was traumatized, not just from being left alone as a small child, God bless him, but also coming here, learning that he's got new siblings. Then his mom probably feels a bit of a way because she left him, probably dealt with him a little bit of a way. Remember, she's traumatized as well from being separated from her children and may not have ever acknowledged it. And then the issues you face with racism, with men, with friends, with work, with all of these type of things. The NHS saying, oh, you can't get your operation, and because you're not British, when in fact you can. But also, anyway, because my father was traumatized and he parented me, my childhood was impacted because I was parented by a traumatized parent. Being parented by a traumatized parent means that your kind of family household and your upbringing was somewhat dysfunctional. So that's the angle of how you had to go through it, of how you have to make the application, that you are the child of someone or the grandchild of someone who entered the UK before 73, because they went through A, B, and C. It's impacted the way they parented you, and you experienced A, B, and C as a child growing up. You know, some of us would have saw domestic violence between our parents. Some of our parents may have been alcoholics or addicted to other substances. Some of our parents may have not had no addictions, but they may have had mental health issues. Some of them may not have had any of those issues, but they had financial issues because they were told that they cannot work and that they are not eligible to work in the UK, which was incorrect. Some of them may have had good jobs, but guess what? You had issues with housing. Now, the only way you're going to get the information of what your family went through, because they would have went through one of those things, even if it wasn't all of them, they would have went through one, most definitely. Now, when you first speak to your parents or grandparents, they may say, oh, I got naturalized, I got neutralized, I got my British, I'm not eligible. Incorrect. You are eligible, whether you've got your British, whether you are settled, whether you've never got your British, whether you've got your indefinite leave to remain, whether you don't really have a status, because some people still don't, like my elder brother, unfortunately, but we're still trying to sort that out. And yeah, so long as you entered the country legally, or you have been naturalized or neutralized on the way, then you are eligible for the scheme. The only way you could not be eligible is if you entered before 73 and you've never had no status from the Home Office, kind of thing. But if that's your case, there's still a way that you can become legal in the UK, and that's by applying to be nationalized or neutralized. If you come here legally or illegally, you can never be deported from the UK because of your British subject status. By the way, you can never be deported. So if they ever try and deport you, just make sure you get a solicitor and an immigration solicitor that's got experience of working with Caribbeans. They have experience of the British Nationality Act 1981, and they're able to assist you. Because don't ever give in to immigration and deportation. If you entered the UK from 73, or your parents or grandparents did, or any close family member, you're exempt from being deported from this nation because of the fact you was born British, you was born a British subject. Anyway, moving on. So as I said, you can apply if your parents or grandparents come before 73. Now, some of you are probably going to ask this question, but before you ask this question, let me answer it. So some of you are going to say, well, my dad come before then, but he's died now, he's passed away. My mom come before then, but she's also passed. She's passed away, she's no longer here, she's deceased. Guess what? You can apply for your deceased family members. You can apply for your deceased parents or grandparents, brother, sister, or aunt, or any other close family member. Some of us grew up with our cousins like they're our brothers or sisters, especially if you come before 73. Or even your partner. You can apply on behalf of your partner, brother, sister, or other close family member, even if they are no longer alive, so long as they entered the UK before the 1st of January 1973. Now, if you look down about 6 bullet points, you'll see there's another ruling as well, but I must be honest and say that I haven't studied this ruling in depth. So if this relates to you, then you may be able to apply, but I would advise you to do further research on it. What it states is this: if you came to the UK from any country before the 31st of December 1988, that was the year I was born, by the way. So if you come to the UK before the 1st of December 88 and you're now settled here, you can also apply to the scheme, but you may need to do a little bit of research to understand the criteria a little bit more. However, what I have researched in depth and what the main point of my presentation is about is for those who arrived in the UK before 73, which is the majority of the Caribbean community. So on the application, it's very, very, very important that you will need to show that you've suffered losses because you could not prove your right to stay in the UK. Or if you're like me and you was born here, you will have to evidence what our parents went through in terms of what they suffered, what losses they faced, how that impacted their life, and then how that impacted my life. So for example, because my dad was so traumatized, he decided to self-medicate. He had a lot of mental health and trauma and stuff like that. He decided to self-medicate with illegal substances. So my father was on drugs for a period of time in his life to help cope through what he'd been through. Do you know what I mean? He just got to the UK. He realized it was a very cold country. They weren't told it was a horrible cold country, by the way. They weren't told that you couldn't buy yam and plantain and banana and all them things here when they arrived. Do you know what I mean? They weren't told that once you get here, you're going to get jumped by white people who are going to try and kill you just for being black. Many people in the Caribbean didn't even realize that that there was any type of real racism. Of course, there was slavery and stuff, but they didn't realize that when they got here, it was going to be like on an individual level. Do you know what I mean? And all the football hooligans and BNP and all of them people, they didn't know that, so they had to deal with that level of trauma, as well as being denied and turned away from all these services, even being turned away from hospital when you're supposed to get an operation, life-saving operation or anything, for the fact that they're saying you're not British, when in fact the passport that you come on, if you did have a passport at that time, it said that you were British on your passport. Many people will know that who arrived before that time. So anyway, now there's different types of applications, right? There's the Windrush, there's the primary claimant application and all of these applications are on the government website. I'm going to read out the link a little bit later. Now, there's for the people who come before 1973, your application is separate to everyone. Your application is the primary claimant application. So when you go onto the Windrush compensation claim government website, don't just download any form. Make sure you're printing off the right thing, because this form, by the way, is 44 pages long. So if you haven't got a printer and you're using a printing shop or whatever, it's going to cost about £3 just to print that application. They do this on purpose, by the way. It's 44 pages long for people who arrived before 73. Anyone who arrived before 73 is 50 years plus. Some of them didn't even learn to read and write, and they make those pages 44 pages long. Yet for someone like me who was born in the UK, who obviously went through free education and all of those things, my application is only 20 pages long. Do you not think that is sarcastic? Do you know what I mean? So they're making it as hard as possible for us to apply. The application is written in very complex language as well. And this is why I break it down in layman's terms so that everyone can understand despite of your level of education. So, for the people who arrived before the 1st of January 1973, your application that you need to download is the primary claimant application form. So on the government website, every single type of application has a guidance form. So there's primary claimant application form, and there is also the primary claimant guidance. My advice is to either print them both or print this application and read the guidance. The guidance will only tell you what I've told you, but you may not remember everything what I've told you, and you may not have had chance to write everything down what I'm saying because I may speak a little bit fast. I'm trying to kind of keep my pace steady for you, but as a northerner, we do speak a little bit faster than you southerners. So anyway, as I was saying, the primary claimant is for those who arrived before the 1st of January 1973. Now, if you're applying as a close family member, our application form is called the close family member application. Remember, I said print off the correct application, but also read the guidance as well. So the close family member application also comes with the close family member guidance, okay? Then, of course, there's a third application. The third application is for our deceased family members that are no longer alive. So, for example, my grandma, she come before my dad, right? My grandma, she passed away about 12 years ago now. So when or maybe a little bit longer, but when my grandma passed away now, she passed away, but her children can apply on her behalf, or as grandchildren. But if you're applying for your deceased family member, make sure it's the right form, the deceased application for a representative of an estate. The application process is a little bit different, and if you apply for a deceased family member, you must be the legally appointed person, so either the representative of an estate, the executor of the estate, person named in the will, or if your family didn't have no will or whatever, or if the person named in the will is no longer alive, or the representative of the estate is no longer alive, then you must be either a next of kin or a direct relative, such as a child or a grandchild. And if the next of kin is alive or the representative of the estate is alive, you must get permission from them, written permission, in order to submit with your application. Otherwise, you ain't going to get no application. And yeah, so for our deceased family members, it's the deceased application that you must apply on. Remember what I said earlier? If you complete the application on the wrong application, say for example, you're a close family member because you was born here, but you decided to apply on the primary claimant form, the Home Office is so wicked that they're going to tell you that you are not eligible. They're not going to say that based on the information you provided, it looks like you could be eligible, but you need to apply on the close family member form because it stated that you was born in the UK. They're not going to tell you that. They should do, but they're going to say, sorry, you are not eligible for this scheme. That's what they've been doing to people. They're so wicked. Also, so as I was saying, children and grandchildren of someone who arrived before 73 can apply, but if they're under 18, they must have a guardian to submit their application on their behalf. And likewise, if our elders are still alive and still here, but they may have dementia or they can't read and write for whatever reason, then you can apply on their behalf, but you must make it very clear. You must be very transparent. You must keep them up to date of the awards that they're going to receive, because they will only make the payment into that person's bank. So, for example, I supported my elder brother to apply, who's got mental health issues and substance misuse as well. I had to go looking for him in order to get him to sign the form and stuff. When it comes to the payment part, they're only going to put it in his account. Okay, so you must be transparent. I know some people might be getting bright ideas. I'm not accusing anyone, but listen to this. They're not going to pay it into anyone's account other than the person's. And if you're applying on behalf of someone who is deceased, you have to have permission from the legally named person. Slide. So as I was saying, right, as I was saying, if you're applying on behalf of a representative of an estate, then you must show how the person who died would be eligible for the scheme. So, for example, if I was applying for my grandma, I'd have to kind of show some type of evidence that she arrived in the UK before 73. Some people think, well, how am I going to get that? She's no longer here. I don't have her documents and so forth. But actually, do you have her birth certificate? If not, you can get it. Do you know that you can apply for like Jamaican birth certificates on the Jamaican embassy website from Jamaica or any other Caribbean nation? What you need to do is call the embassy in the UK, because every single nation has an embassy all over the world, in most parts of the world. So every single nation has an embassy here. St. Lucia will, St. Kitts and Nevis will, Nigeria will, Ghana, and so forth. So you contact your embassy here. You say to them, how do we apply for birth certificates online? Ask them for the process. They'll give you it. I done it for my dad. It was very straightforward. Many people say, oh, it takes ages, or, you know, applying for the documents is a long thing. It's not really that long, honestly. I done it myself to help my dad, got his birth certificate in about 6 weeks after we'd applied for it. It wasn't even that much. I think it cost me £80 for 2 birth certificates. We got them through the post, proved that he was born in Jamaica. And then what you also have to do for someone who's no longer alive, though, is you must prove that that you're related to them. So once you prove that they were born in Jamaica at the time, and then if you can get access to their naturalization certificate, if you don't have it, or the next of kin doesn't have it, one of your aunties or uncles, one of them will keep papers. Some of us are hoarders of papers. I'm one of them. Around my desk you can't see, but I've got lots of papers here. But if you've got a family member like that, it's likely they're going to have the document. If they were the next of kin or person that was named in the will or whatever, it's likely that they will also have the documents. If they don't, you can apply for these documents under the Freedom of Information Act. You can apply to the Home Office, to the GP, to the police for records, to hospitals for records, for DWP benefit records. For example, if your mom's no longer alive, but you were born in 1971, that's evidence that your mom was here in 1971 because she had you and her name's on your birth certificate. That's evidence as well. The naturalization or neutralization paper is evidence, and any travel documents that they used, they may have kept. So their original passports from Jamaica, their British passports. If you can get their Caribbean birth certificate or African birth certificate, if that's where they were born, that proves where they were born. If you get their naturalization paper, it proves that they were here. If you can get their passport, it proves they were here. Even if you can't get any travel documents to prove they were here, if they claim child benefits, DWP will have a record of that, even if they died 20, 30 years ago. Do you know that all official organisations in the UK have a duty to keep records for 100 years due to the Data Protection Act? I know this because I'm a qualified social worker and we're trained in data protection and GDPR, and we have to keep records for 100 years. If we get rid of any records in 100 years, we can face legal implications. So I know this for a whole fact. As I said to you, all the information that I'm giving you is 100% factual, other than if I'm saying from my experience or from my opinion. Okay, so again, you can get these documents, and it is a little bit of it's time consuming. I wouldn't say it's hard work, but you need to do it and you will get the money, I promise you. Now, my father, by the way, my father got a lot of money. He got over £70,000. My father got over £70,000 because he was the first one that I supported to get his money. He got his money back in 2020, my father. I got mine in 21. And my elder brother, he appealed his because he's got discretionary circumstances. So he's still yet to be paid. My brother will probably be paid over 100,000 because they had him in a deportation center two times, and he wasn't even born in the Caribbean. What a joke. Anyway, moving forward, because I'm conscious of time. So once you get the birth certificate or death certificate, if you can't get the birth certificate, because the death certificate says where they were born as well, right? If you can't get those, just try and see what you can get from the UK services. But it is going to take some communication with your family members. Allow this to reintroduce yourselves to one another, because now I've reminded you of why your relationships are fractured. Hopefully you'll be able to say, you know what, I forgive myself, I forgive my brother, I forgive my sister, I forgive my mother, I forgive my father, I forgive my grandmother, I forgive them, because you know why? We were under a spell and we were convinced to do this. We didn't just wake up and say, you know what, let me dash my children away, can't be bothered with them anymore. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that at all. And they suffered as well, whether they hid it from us, which most of our elders did and still do. But yeah, please let us forgive each other and ourselves as well. So moving forward, one thing about this compensation form is, for each question they ask you, and anything you put on the form, they're going to ask you for evidence, even for own ID. So the first part of the form, because the forms are laid out in the same way, so whether it is the form for the deceased family members, or whether it's a form for the close close family members, or whether it's the form for the primary claimants, they are set out in the same way. The beginning of the forms will start off with asking you name, age, date of birth, address, all of these different things. You put it in your basic that's called your personal information, by the way. So you put in your personal information, and then you will need to evidence your personal information. So I had to show a council tax bill, for example, my passport, and then so I gave them all the evidence what I have with me. I gave them my birth certificate, passport, driver's license, and proof of address. All right. Now I'm extra like that, me, but I don't give people any excuse to say to me no. So if you ask for one thing, I'm giving you 5. So I know that your answer is definitely going to be yes. They can't say no to me. So anyway, and this is what I'm advising you. Give them more than what they ask. If they ask for one piece of evidence, give them 2, give them 3, give them 4 or more. So they'll ask you for evidence of yourself. So as it says here, this information is directly copied and pasted direct from the government website, by the way. So you need one piece of valid photographic as evidence. Most of you will have it. If you don't worry, they're still away, but do try and get it, please, right? So it's either a passport, a driving license, a home office ID card, such as your BRP card, the biometric residency permit card. As I said, driving license, provisional license, any HMRC document as well. You can use one of them. So that's not photographic ID, but if you've got HM Revenue and Customs letter or whatever with your details on, submit that. That classes as it. Even if you've got an overseas identity document, such as a passport for a different nation, or, you know, like in America, they have those identity cards, citizen ID cards or whatever, you can use one of them. That's from group 1. Group 2, you need 2 pieces of this information. So a letter from your bank, a letter from your local authority, a letter from a solicitor confirming who you are. Sorry, a letter from a solicitor confirming that your purchase of land, any type of document proving that you have a mortgage or whatever, any letters from benefits agencies as well, any letters from the Home Office. There's other relevant evidence that you're going to need to evidence exactly what you're saying. Now, if you're the person who arrived in this country before 1973, the most important thing what you need to evidence, because your birth paper will evidence that you wasn't born here, what you then need to evidence is any document that shows your entry to the country. Some people have shown me their original tickets, original travel documents. I've seen original travel documents for people that traveled on boat and stuff. Now, some of people might be like, wow, but guess what? It wasn't that long ago. It was not that long ago. It was not that long ago. Okay, so anyway, you have to prove your entry to the country, right? Now, if you haven't got no documents, the Home Office are likely to have documents. So it's very important that when you write to these agencies, by the way, request your evidence, you must do it under you must do it under the Freedom of Information Act, right? Because you know these people don't want to give us our documents, right? And the thing is the Freedom of Information Act, you can look it up after this if you want to, or you can take my word for it. It's up to you. I advise everyone to do research, but anyway, the Freedom of Information Act, means that if I was an official organization or body, right, even the police, anyone, if I receive a request under the Freedom of Information Act, I have to provide you with factual evidence by law, and I must respond to your email or letter immediately and acknowledge your request and advise you how many days it's going to take me to provide this information to you as an organization. So, for example, if I written to the Met Police and I said to them, remember back in 2012 when I sued you, can you please provide me evidence on this? They're going to ignore us. No organization is going to give us the evidence to sue them or penalize them. And that's probably what they're thinking, right? So they're not going to give us evidence against them. But if you do the Freedom of Information Act request, they cannot deny it. All right. So you send a Freedom of Information Act request. They should email you or write to you, depending whether you emailed them or written to them. It has to be in, all right. It can't be by telephone or whatever. That's not going to work. You have to do it in writing. And then this is what I said to them. Under the Freedom of Information Act, you can put the year, I forgot the year, but I said under the Freedom of Information Act, I request all documents on me, all information held on me relating to the incident where I ended up suing you for misconduct, right? Which was true. I did do it. But anyway, yeah, I sued them because they illegally strip searched me in college when they shouldn't have done, and it was one officer instead of 2. But I just took to sue them and I won. So anyway, I was compensated £2,000 for that years and years ago, but never guess what? I still put it on my compensation form on this form, and it was still included in my award. So they sent me evidence. They don't send me evidence that they compensated me, because they didn't. My solicitor got me the compensation from the police. Do you see what I mean? But they provided documentation that I was treated unfairly by the police in such and such day, in such and such place. So this is what I need from you. So what I'm telling you is, despite of whether you've been compensated for something before, right, you can add it to your form. You don't have to say that you've had compensation. I'm not advising you to lie. However, you know, you can just give them the information of where and how you've been oppressed. All right. But remember, you have to relate it back to the Windrush scheme. Now, how do you do that if you're born here and you've never really had any immigration issues, right? So what I done is this. Remember, I'm the child of someone who came before 1973. So what I done is I've written a little small brief biography about Dad, how he come, how he was invited, the treatment society gave him, the treatment institutions gave him, the treatment he faced in the army, which was very, very bad, by the way. I totally agree with what Muhammad Ali said about fighting in a white man's war as a person of color or as a black man or black woman. Don't do it, because trust me, they will kill you at any given chance, even if you're willing to give your life. Remember what I said? My father was in the British Army. They invited him, you know. He didn't just apply, they invited him. And he fought in Northern Ireland twice and in Berlin in Germany as well. My father put his life on the line. He killed people for this country, and never guess what? He still does his British passport, and they still put him in a deportation centre 2 times. Okay, so anyway, going back to the presentation, you have to relate everything back to the Windrush compensation scheme. So as I was saying, you do that as a British person by saying, my dad went through all of this. He was very traumatized. He was traumatized when I was born, and therefore his parenting was a little bit skew-iff because our family was dysfunctional. Because he was traumatized, there was issues between him and my mom, such as domestic violence or substance misuse or whatever. That impacted my quality of childhood now, and that resulted in me being in foster care for some parts of my childhood, which is true. This is true. I put this on my form. All right. I had to go back to my previous social services and do a DSAR request. Now, the Freedom of Information Act request is a strong request. You can use that for the police and for the Home Office and all of them, because we know they're not going to be forthcoming with the information. People like social services, they may, but there's something else that's a little bit lower than the Freedom of Information Act request, but it's still a legal it's still a legal act. So there's this thing called DSAR. So please write this down, everyone. This is another form of legislation that you're going to have to use to request your information. So it's these are letters, by the way. D for Delta, D, S for Sierra, DS, A for Alpha. So DSA, R for Romeo, DSAR, that stands for Data Subject Access Request, right? So you're making a request for data on yourself. You're making a request to access your own data that this company hold on you. That's what a DSAR means. It means a data subject access request. I know that sounds confusing. Some of you may have heard of it before, but those of you who haven't, don't let these long words or the jargon throw you off, because that's what they love to do to us. All it means is give me my goddamn information right now. If not, then we can penalize you. That's what it means. Yeah. So that's all you need to understand, really. But then remember, when you're writing to them, just use their terminology, DSAR. So you would write an email or a letter like this. Dear Middlesbrough Social Services, this is what I really written for real. Dear Middlesbrough Social Services, I was in care under Middlesbrough Middlesbrough, what did I say? Middlesbrough's Children's Social Services and the Leave and Care team. Please, can you confirm to me the years that I was in foster care? So what the social services done is they went away and they researched and they looked at my files, and then they come back with factual information. Actually, before that, this is what they've done. Dear Miss Wilson Downey, we have received your DSAR request. We will be in touch with you within 30 days. But what they've done is they rang me, they said, hello, is everything all right? I said, everything's all right. I just need some information. Can you give me the information that I've requested, please? And they were like, oh, yeah, of course. But is everything all right? They're just concerned that you're going to complain about them. It's not my business to tell them whether I'm going to complain about them or what I need the information for. It's my business to tell them I want the information. I've requested the information. They may come back to you and say, oh, thanks for emailing us. This is the correct address where you need to send your DSAR or your FOI request. FOI just means freedom of information, all right? So they may direct you to the correct team of where to do it, because there are specific teams who deal with it, because they are under legal obligation to provide this information. So they just want to make sure that they're following the correct procedures. But I don't business about what they want or what they don't want. I've sent in my request. You've come back and said to me, we're going to respond to you within 28 days or 30 days. By the way, they should not take longer than 30 days to respond belong to you. Yeah. And just do yourself a favor and already write to them with the FOI request or with the DSAR request. Otherwise, what they may do is ignore you, and then you're just going to have to write to them with a DSAR request or FOI request anyway. So just do it that way. I done it that way, straight. I got all the information quickly and done. Anyway, so they've written back to me. They sent me information of the court order of where we were removed from my parents' care. All right. So when we were removed from my parents' care, it was in the Crown Court, and they give you it on the court order. So they sent me a copy of the court order. They scribbled out my brothers and sisters' names, but I had the court order. All right. It was a little bit emotional getting it because I was like, rah, I was actually in care, because you forget sometimes all the stuff we've been through, and sometimes that's a mind trying to protect us from getting mental health issues. It's not good to remember and recall your trauma, but we're gonna have to do it for this purpose and for this exercise alone. All right, it is a little bit challenging, but just do it. If not, you've got to live with your trauma anyway. Do you know what I mean? And what my grandmother, God bless her, I didn't get to spend that much of my life with her whilst I was growing up, because my parents split and because we were removed from them and all these things. By the time I got back in contact with my dad's family, my grandma had passed, and that was very, very upsetting. So the best thing I can do right now for my grandma is get this money, what's owed to her, because if it wasn't for her, none of us would have been here anyway. In the UK, never mind just alive. So get this money for your grandparents, even if you think, oh, well, why should we get compensated? We don't deserve it. We've come here and had a better life. That's what some people say. And I'm just like, well, ask your grandma if she has the same views. Do you know what I mean? Or your grandfather. Anyway, so you do the DSAR request, you do the freedom of information request, and these are the type of things what you're going to be asking for evidence for. Because some people right now on this chat, right now, tell me if this is correct. Are you thinking, well, I've been through a lot, but I can't prove it? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And this is how you can prove it, right? So you need any record since you've arrived in the UK. Your birth certificate, if you were born here back in 60s, 70s, whatever, proves that you were here as a child of someone who arrived in the UK before that time. Do you know that British birth certificates, right? They have your name, your date of birth, the hospital you were born in. Down below, do you know what it says? Mother's name, mother's place of birth. Father's name, father's place of birth. All right. So it has where your mum was born and her name as well. So your birth certificate alone, by the way, if you were born in the UK, is enough information and evidence to prove that you are the child of someone who was not born in the UK, because it says their place of birth on our birth certificate, but also the year you were born would prove that your mum got here before 73. If you were born before 73, your birth certificate alone is enough evidence to show that you were the child of someone who arrived in the UK before 73. If you were born after 1973, there's other ways to prove it, so don't panic, right? You might have elder siblings who were born before 73, but again, don't panic. There's still more. If you are the person who arrived in 73, have you ever traveled outside the UK? Like, for example, my older brother, he's never had a British passport or Jamaican passport. He was scared to get a Jamaican passport in case they deported him. So, but when we were younger, he traveled to Germany with my mom and dad on a temporary passport. So some of you have traveled on temporary documents. The Home Office will have copies of them. So remember, you have to use the law when you're making requests to those type of organizations. Do you have a passport if you were born if you weren't born here? Do you have a passport? What type of passport do you have? Even if it's an old passport, do you have your naturalization or neutralization papers? So by the way, nationalization, neutralization, and naturalization are all the same thing. It's the same thing. That little certificate you get, the white one with the red writing that stipulates the British Nationality Act 1981 means that you are now a British subject. That's evidence of when you arrived or when you started to apply for your British. But that certificate as well, right, is also a load of, because you was already British anyway. So even if everything has been fine for you, but you had to do that process, you're eligible for the fact that they made you queue up, line up, they sent you letters to threaten you, to tell you that if you don't follow this process by a specific date, you'll be getting deported out of the country. That's a threat. That was a threat against you, against your human rights, because number one, you was British anyway, but why they're threatening to deport you? They're scaring people into being conformists. This is what they're doing. But anyway, luckily, we've caught them out. They owe us money. And everyone on this chat, I hope that you're going to apply. I hope that you're going to encourage your elders and your family members to apply. And I hope that you're all going to apply on behalf of your deceased family members as well. It's a must. It's a must. It's a must. So, have you ever been in a deportation centre? Have you ever been detained in a prison, in a police cell? Have you ever been detained under the Mental Health Act? Get evidence of all of those things by writing to the hospitals, writing to your GP, contacting 111. By the way, 111 is the non-emergency number for the health services, right? So you call 111 and you say to them, this is my NHS number. I would like all documentation on me, or can you tell me what my deceased mother or deceased father's NHS number is, right? Call up next time. I would like to request all documentation on my father. This is his name. This was his date of birth. This was the date he was deceased. I want all documents on my father from him being in the UK. Right now, when you read those documents, you're going to see that actually your father, your mother, your grandma, your grandfather, your aunt, your uncle was denied NHS services because they couldn't prove the right that they were British. Shocking, 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 but yes, it happened. Or you're going to realize that when you read some of these documents, that actually they were oppressed. Some of them were given benefits, some of them were refused benefits, some of them had to be on benefits because they were denied work because they couldn't prove their right that they were British, because their document was a Caribbean document. However, they were British. So there's immigration or deportation issues. If you were ever in a deportation centre, fine.
You got 4 minutes left, my queen.
Okay.
You're on fire. Because I've said that now, hundreds of people hate me.
I know, right?
Because you're just killing it, sister. But you've got 4 minutes left, sister.
That's all right. We can have a part 2 in the future if you feel it's necessary. But anyway, moving on quickly. If you have been in foster care, write to social services. Even if your children were removed from you, it's likely to relate to the fact that you had a dysfunctional childhood, or you were the barrel baby that was left alone. You were never taught parenting properly, so you couldn't model that as an adult, despite of how much you tried and despite of how much you loved your children. They were separated from you, or even because of the agendas. And therefore, because of that, you were separated from your children. You can write to social services and request evidence of that. All right. If you were expelled from school, if you were denied access to education, if you were denied benefits, if you've been denied housing, or you're still living in temporary housing today, that is classed as homelessness. You can get evidence of all of these things by applying to the agencies. All right. If you're in armed services as well, get evidence from them by calling the military or the Salvation Army. They can direct you of how to get evidence of that. So there's categories of award. The categories of award are, this is where you can claim under. If you face depression with employment, not being able to prove your right to work, detention, deportation, removal or returns, housing, health, education, or impact on your normal daily life. Even if you had employment all your life, you've never been deported, never had immigration issues, you've been given housing, and you've had good health and you've had good service from NHS and education, never guess what? You may have psychological issues due to what you've been through and what you've witnessed as a child who didn't grow up here, or as a child that did grow up here, or as a child or grandchild, just like myself. What my dad's been through directly impacted me and directly impacted my life. The key thing is, though, evidence. Okay. There's a wider discretion for unusual claims for things that I may not have mentioned, or even unusual claims like my brother's, where you weren't even born in the Caribbean or in African nations, but you were still penalized. The more evidence you gather, the more evidence you present, the higher your offer. I got £20,000. There's some people that arrived here before 73 and only got £10,000. You know why? It's because of the way that you present the information. So it's key to put in those psychological disorders like maternal deprivation, because I've only got 4 minutes left, well, 3 minutes left, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out, and as you can see now, please quickly jot down the first one. You see the first link. This is the key link to the compensation scheme. All those other links can be found on there. So quickly, please write down this so I can move on to the next slide. I will read it out as well. So this is where you can get all of the information, the applications, and the guidance as well. All right. So it's get your pens ready, everybody. It's www.gov.uk/apply-windrush-compensation-scheme. I'm going to read that out to you again. It's www.gov.uk/apply-windrush-compensation-scheme. Now, once you click on that, what you're going to see is you're going to see these other links. So it's a close family member form, which the children and grandchildren can fill in. You cannot fill out a primary claimant form unless you are the person who come before the 1st of January 1973. So that's the third link that you can see, primary claimant. So your primary claimant is anyone who arrived before the 1st of January 1973, but you're alive. The deceased application is for anyone who arrived to the UK before the 1st of January 1973 from a British Commonwealth nation that is no longer alive. Okay. Remember, you need to be the next of kin, representative of the state, or legally named person in their will, or their child or grandchild, if you are applying on behalf of a deceased family member. What's very important is only one person apply for a deceased family member. What do I mean by that? So my dad has 9 children. Say if he was no longer alive, touch wood, but say he was no longer alive, only one of us could apply for my deceased family member. Okay, only one of you can apply, but never guess what? I can then apply as a close family member, as a child of his, and all of my individual 8 siblings can also apply on their own individual applications based on what they've experienced due to my father, on their individual application. So it's only one deceased application per deceased person. So if your mum's passed and your dad's passed, or your grandma and your granddad's passed, it's one deceased application for grandma, one deceased application for granddad, one deceased application for mum, one deceased application for dad. Now, if you're a primary claimant, it's only one application for yourself if you arrived before 73. Remember, if you're a primary claimant and you qualify, every single one of your children can apply, and their grandchildren. You just have to evidence how they've suffered, and that can be within education if they haven't done well in school, whatever, even if they've been to prison and all things like that. Put it on there because it's proof that you and your family have suffered, and trust me, it's directly related to the trauma that our parents and grandparents have faced due to the Windrush Compensation Scheme. Now, there is a telephone number on there. It is the Home Office's number, not my number. You can call and ask them to post you a copy of the application form, but only do that because those people on the phones, by the way, have been telling people that they're not eligible for the scheme when they are not fit, not qualified, not trained, and they're no expert to tell you whether you are eligible or not. That is not their role, and I proved this with the Home Office. I asked the Home Office a specific question, and hope you may hear about this somewhere soon. I asked the Home Office a specific question 2 weeks ago. Are the people who answer your phones qualified to tell people whether they are eligible or not eligible for the scheme? And the head of the Windrush Compensation Scheme team said, no, they're not. I said, thank you very much. Do you know why? Because they've been telling people that they're not eligible. So don't bother ask them whether whether you're eligible or not. Ask them to post you a form. If you come before 73, you're eligible, and so your children and grandchildren on that basis. If your parent or grandparent come before 73, then they're eligible, and so you on that basis, but you must make them apply first, because when you apply, you have to prove how you're related to someone from that scheme. If they haven't applied yet, how are you going to do that? Okay, so I'll quickly read out this. It'll take me 1 minute and done. So the process, you collect and collate all your evidence. You download and print the the correct form. You can download and type onto it, or you can print and handwrite it. I like handwriting, so I done it that way. So I printed mine, I filled it out. Then based on all the evidence I've collected, some evidence I couldn't get, so I just written mine based on the evidence that I could get. It was strong enough, right? So once I got the evidence and I filled it all out, I read it back to front. Have I answered the questions properly? Have I explained it properly? Remember, the more you elaborate about your trauma, the more money and the more understanding the reader's going to have who's assessing it. The more understanding they have, the higher your reward can be. Make it make sense to the reader, who's probably some white person from up north, not related to the Windrush scheme and doesn't have a clue about it. They only know what you tell them. So write it like a storybook, write it like a biography of what you've been through or what your parent or grandparent went through, and then how it's impacted your life, what you've been through and where you're at now in life. All right. So if you've been homeless and stuff, you can write to the council to give them evidence that you've completed homelessness applications and stuff. But anyway, you put it all down on the form. You go through each section once you've completed it. Make sure you've answered it to the best of your ability. And this is the most important part. You copy what you've written. Because anyhow, they try and claim that they've not received your form. Do you know how hard it is to write about your traumas? It's very, 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 very hard. So once you've written it, you copy it, you scan it, or even just take a picture on your smartphone. And then once you've done that, you keep a copy for yourself. You post it off to the 3 addresses written below here. It's Free Post, Windrush Compensation Scheme, Sheffield, S3, 8WA, United Kingdom. That's for the people born in Britain or still living in Britain, sorry. That's for the people in Britain. If you're applying from overseas, you can send it by mail to Windrush Compensation Scheme, PO Box 3468 Sheffield, S3 8WA, United Kingdom, or you can email it. So I posted mine and I emailed it the scanned copy because I'm extra like that. But I just wanted like they can never tell me that you haven't received it because I've sent it to you in a number of ways. Anyway, the Windrush Compensation Scheme, or one word, Windrush Compensation Scheme at homeoffice.gov.uk. That is the email address to scan it to. Windrush Compensation Scheme at homeoffice.gov.uk. Make sure you've read it all, make sure you've signed all the correct sections, the dates are correct, everything's correct, everything correlates with what your mum or dad said if you're applying after they've applied, or everything correlates with what you put in your grandma's deceased form. So if you're applying for the deceased form and you saying your grandma went through all of these things, all in your form, what you should do is also explain how your grandma went through all of these things in brief, a little bit shorter, but how it's affected you. All right. And what happens next? Sorry, 30 more seconds. So once you post off your form or scan off your form, the Home Office will write to you within 3 to 4 weeks. They'll give you a reference number. It's key that you keep this reference number because anytime you call them now, they ain't giving you no information unless you present them with that reference number. You give them the reference number. They say, yes, we've received it. We're assessing it. Yes, we're assessing it. It goes to a case decision once they're satisfied that you've provided all the evidence for what you've said on the form. If they're not, they'll write to you and say to you, oh, we need evidence because you said A, B, and C. You've only provided evidence for A and B. Once you submit that evidence, they'll look at it again, they'll review it. Then what they will then do is to send it to a case decision maker. Once that case decision maker's looked at it, they'll make an offer of compensation, but it's internal. It'll go to a second case decision maker who will then write to you with an offer. They will say to you, this is your offer for your compensation. Do you accept it or not? Don't just accept it if you don't think that it's worth your thing, despite of whether you think, right, I need it right now. If you don't think that it's good enough, then say that to them. You can appeal, you can ask for an independent adjudicator as well. Now, if you do accept it and you sign the form like I did, they say it's going to be in your account with 3 to 6 weeks. It was in my account within 7 days, I promise you. When I saw £20,000, I was like, is this real? I literally had to go to the bank to say, is this real? I couldn't believe it. But anyway, it is real and it will be in your account. Okay. That slide is just based on what I already said to you. I already discussed intergenerational trauma earlier, but there's my reference list just for anyone who may want to see what my reference list is. The bottom part is application guidance. Middle one is the Windrush Compensation Scheme link I've already read out to you. And the top one is just the BBC News where I used a little bit of information for the introduction of my presentation. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I wish I had more time because I love presenting. I can talk for England and Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean as well. But again, thank you so much for Andrew for giving me your platform.
Wow, wow, wow. Brothers and sisters, do I really need to say anything more? If you can stop the share screen, sister. Brothers and sisters,
Okay, sorry.
do you really need anything more than this? Do you really? Come on, man. Drop the ones. Drop the ones. My goody gumdrops. Sister, fire. Fire, my queen. Fire. Absolutely, sister. And you're a dangerous sister, beloved, because you make complicated truths sound so simple. And that is a danger for people that don't want this information out there. That was absolutely amazing and phenomenal, sister. Definitely 100%, brothers and sisters, we're going to drop a part 2 to this. 100%, sister. And I can see that you're versed in other areas as well, sister. When you spoke about your family, everyone on this platform, I think, identified with you on so many different levels, especially those of us that came via the Caribbean, especially, but I think all the families could identify, but especially those who came via the Caribbean and had brothers and sisters prior to parents coming there, and the effect that it had, on the family itself. And there are so many issues I would like you to come back on, sister. So we will be in contact with you. Now, sis, I know that there's a number of questions. Just before we get into some of the questions, because that's why I needed time. I promised time for the public to be able to ask questions. And if you could answer the questions as brief as you can, so we can get through as many questions as possible, that would be fantastic, sister. Yeah?
Okay, yes.
Absolutely brilliant. Jarita, are there any questions that you've identified?
Hello there, sister. Lovely presentation. Thank you so much for your insight.
Brilliant
I will be sure to be going through my notes and the replay again. But yes, there are a few questions that I feel that are definitely relevant. There was a question, it's from an anonymous person, it doesn't say their name, but it says, you mentioned obviously that if you are awarded compensation, they will offer you a first offer, and then perhaps you can go back and say, actually, you don't accept that. The question was, if you do appeal their first offer, but it's not upheld, is the original offer still available?
Yes, the original offer is still available. They have to compensate you. So like, I understand why someone's asked that question. With other usual compensation claims, like for a road accident or whatever, you can request an appeal. And in this country, if you refuse an offer of compensation for a general matter, and you appeal it twice, you can lose your original offer, but actually with this case as well, you can't lose your original offer. Once they make that original offer to you, it's there and it's solid and everything's done in writing. They send you these like cream colored letters with black writing on, so they'll send it to you. And some people, by the way, can I just say, don't be paying anyone to help you do this. Don't be paying no solicitors or whatever. Many people say, right, I'll get an immigration solicitor. They're going to charge you thousands of pounds just to give you information that's available for free. So you can go on the government website and find this information for free. I've broke it down in layman's terms. Don't be paying anyone to help you. If you can, please do refuse the first offer and then see what they come with. But if you refuse the first offer, they're going to ask you for evidence as to why you feel you should get more. So just provide it.
Can I just add on to that, sister? I received a call and a voicemail as well saying, am I charging for tonight's show? I want everyone to bear witness. I am not profiting off this subject matter. Everyone who's been on this platform, you've not paid a penny to come on tonight's show. So there's been no charges, no offer of any charges. So I'm glad the sister raised that point, in truth, because we are not profiting off this website on this show tonight, and using this night as a get-rich scheme to fool our people. So I wanted to make that very plain. So if anyone asks you, did Brother Andrew charge you a fee to come on tonight's show, let them know you're here free of charge. This is a platform of information. Okay, sister, Jarita.
Well, on that note, I did have somebody ask that if they were applying for somebody else, whose bank account would it go into? But just for that person, it will go into your bank account.
But can I just say something though?
Sorry,
there's no way that someone can apply on behalf of someone that's still alive, unless, of course, say for example, I was applying for my grandma and she's got dementia. The money would go in her account. Why would you apply for on behalf of someone else unless they are under 18 or they're unwell or they're not able to read and write themselves and they've gave you legal permission to apply on their behalf? The money would go in their account. So please, I know some people may be getting bright ideas. Don't be getting no bright ideas. Make sure that the money goes to the rightful person.
Yeah. A lot of questions again, just if you could confirm about the deceased. Yeah. So if we are making applications for those who have passed on, do we have to get permission from those who were put on the will? Or can we just apply and say, actually, I'm the granddaughter of somebody, I'm not part of the will, but obviously I was impacted by their passing or, by them being here before then.
Okay, let me make this very, very clear, because sometimes people just hear money and their ears ring and they can't hear nothing else, right? So if you're applying on behalf of a deceased family member, you must, by law, have legal permission in order to apply on their behalf. If your family member is deceased, you have to be a person that is legally named in the will. If you are legally named in the will, or if they didn't have a will, or you're not the legally named person, what you can do is you can apply to be the representative of the estate. However, if there's a representative of the estate or an executive of the estate that is already alive, there's no way that you're going to become that representative of the estate. Now, if you are the granddaughter of someone who arrived in that time, but you're saying you haven't suffered, you ain't going to be eligible for your own claim. Now, people need to listen and listen very clearly. If you are the grandchild of someone who entered the UK before 1973 and they're deceased or alive, you can do your own claim as a close family member. Forget your deceased family member application. Do your own claim based on what you've suffered through the suffering of your parents and grandparents. And you say, well, I haven't suffered, but if you look at your family dysfunction or the trauma you've been through, you probably have suffered. So focus on yourself and claiming for yourself. What we need to do is do this as transparent as possible. I don't want people, trying to make applications that's not for them. That's not going to help, and you're just going to make it longer for those of us that have genuine applications. So as I was saying, if you have a deceased family member, only one person out of your whole family, even if you have 2 million people in your family, only one person can apply. That person has to be either the legally named person, right, or the child or grandchild. If, for example, the only time a grandchild can claim for a deceased family member is if the person that was named in the will is no longer alive, or if there was no will and your mum was the next of kin, but your mum's no longer alive. You can't just apply because your family members died, but they come before 73. I think that we need to kind of give the Home Office a little bit of credit. They're not that stupid. That's not going to happen. So I hope that I answered that question clearly, and sorry if you feel that my answer was a little bit judgmental.
No, that was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much. And just to clarify again, that we are, if they are alive, so we're not talking about any deceased family members here. You've got the primary applicant who wants to apply, and then you've got a child of that person. Do you have to wait for the primary person to apply before you can? That's from Michelle Lewis.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. Great question. The answer is no. So say, for example, my dad, if he said to me, oh, yeah, when I first rang him, Dad, this scheme, is it about you? Oh, my God, I'm going to get rich. If he said to me now, oh, yeah, I do qualify, but you know what? I don't want nothing to do with this scheme. I don't want no money from the Home Office, which some people do say. I don't want no business with them, or I don't want to share my details with them. Fine. But I can still apply so long as my close family member is eligible. So if your close family member is eligible, then you can apply whether they've applied or not. But I must tell you this, you can only apply by explaining what they've been through and how it's affected you. The only way you're going to do that is with a conversation conversation with your family. What some people will try and do is apply without a conversation with their family because they're allowing the trauma to still affect them. Of course, we can't control trauma, but please reunite with your family and have these conversations, even if it's just for the purpose of the scheme. And if you think, all right, I want to call my dad, but I haven't spoke to him since 19 or blanc, what do I say? Say to him, Dad, do you know, or auntie or grandma, do you know that you are likely to be eligible for this compensation scheme? And the person I was speaking to said that her father got over £70,000. Yeah, I think that you're eligible. Exactly. It's a form of reparations. I don't know if we're ever going to get reparations from this nation, but this is a form of reparations specifically for the British born and those that come here from the Caribbean.
Thank you. I've also got a question just about somebody who came from Antigua. This is from Marilyn. She said that she's got a friend who came from Antigua in 1969, but came on a British passport, and she doesn't believe that she had to be naturalized. Is she still able to claim she came here as British? Or
sorry, can you say that again? She come from where?
She came from Antigua.
Yes.
In 1969, but she came on a British passport, she believes, and never had to be naturalized.
Yes. So she come, what happened, the way in which she come, right? Some of the other nations were a little bit, they would treat a little bit different to Jamaicans. So and places like Antigua or Guyana as well, they were also quite fair with their treatment for some people though, right? So they got their British passport, they come here and they never had an issue accessing British services. That is what's supposed to have happened for all of us and our parents and grandparents. Because that didn't happen, this is why they're eligible for the scheme. However, sister, yes, you are eligible for the scheme. Do you know why? Because you meet the #1 criteria. You entered the UK before the 1st of January 1973 from a British Commonwealth nation. Now you've got to really think, what have I suffered from? Even if you were one of them children that got left alone, or you were one of those mothers who had to leave your children at home, or you were one of those siblings who come with your mum, but your other siblings got left alone, there's something you've been through, sister. You just need to read the application and think, and ask for messages from the ancestors of how this specifically relates to you. But I'm glad that you got your British and you were allowed to access British services. But what else did you suffer at the hands of the British establishment or the hands of the British people? There must be something.
Thank you. Is there an end date to this? Is there a cut-off point? There's a lot of people asking if there's an end date to when we can apply, and if we are at risk of the funds running or being depleted before we get a chance.
Well, I wish I could say yes to make you all apply quicker, but the answer is actually no. Thankfully, there's no deadline at the moment. But hi, Mimi, I can see your comments saying that, sorry, I do have to respond. This is because the Home Office send out their agents to attend my events and advise this information is misleading. Mimi, would you like to come on and advise what information is misleading so I can respond to your suggestions with factual information? Come on, let's do it. The Home Office keep on sending their agents for me, and in all different ways. You work for the Home Office. Let me ask you this. Do you work in the Windrush Compensation Scheme team? Do you have any knowledge on the scheme? Come on and come one-to-one with me now, and let's see what you believe is, Mimi, what information is misleading? Because everything what I'm stating can be referenced from direct from the government website. Come on, Miss Babylon.
Andrea, do we have a time for that? Do we have time to bring? We've just... Mimi, feel free to unmute and show yourself on camera, please. You have been given rights to speak.
Right.
Let's see your face, please, Mimi, so we can see who you are.
Okay, I've just changed her to panelist. Mimi, you can turn your mic on, camera on there if you like to. Because this is a debate I have heard.
Mimi Frank.
Where's your face, sister? Let's see who you are. Reveal yourself.
Sister Mimi, you've got an opportunity to speak or forever hold your peace, because
it might be the wrong Mimi you've got on.
Mimi Frank.
Oh, sorry.
Another, so the one Mimi, boy, that Mimi that's actually got through must be sweating. Oh, no.
Sorry.
Mimi, the other Mimi,
I've
I
been trying to
apologize.
say.
It's not a name that is so regular. I didn't think we had two Mimis on there. But,
Mimi,
I'm just
Mimi
looking for
Frank. Let's see.
I
Mimi,
cannot
make
see-
sure you turn your camera on, otherwise you are just a person hiding behind the internet, and that is not, it's not accountable and it's not transparent. So please reveal yourself, and I welcome any question that you hold against me.
I cannot see a Mimi Frank. Can anyone see?
I will double check participants. Hold on, let's see.
Because I have seen
No,
videos.
she's still there. Mimi Frank is still here, according to what I can see.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna make you a co-host, sister. If you can make sure she comes on then.
Okay.
Because just as before Mimi comes on, I have been approached and I have seen various videos disputing this information. As I said, I don't know. I've never looked into it. What the sister sounded today, Sister Katie,
She
it
is.
sounds like she has done her homework. She sounded phenomenal. But I want to give Mimi Frank an opportunity. Did you make her a panelist here,
She
sister?
is. She's.
Mimi Frank, if you
she's
could turn
on,
on your camera.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
We can't
Let's
see you
show
though.
your
We can
face,
hear you,
please.
Yeah,
but can't see.
I'm aware you can't see me. If I turn on the
No.
camera, the audio will go, but I'm sure my voice is very clear.
I would like
And
to
I'm
see
happy
your
and I'm
face,
happy to
please.
explain myself. Would that be okay?
Please, can you reveal your face? I would like to see who you are. Reveal
think-
yourself to the community, sister.
Yeah,
Show them who you are.
I'm not about to bomb you with anything. You know, I'm just here to explain myself.
Show your face, sister.
Okay,
Reveal
I don't.
yourself.
No, excuse me. I don't wish to put my face on the camera
Oh,
because I
wonder
did
why
explain.
that is.
No, I don't understand. Why are you being so defensive? I'm not here to fight with you. I'm here
Defensive.
to give clear
Defensive.
information.
Sister,
So the information you're giving, okay, I'll just
reveal
explain
yourself.
myself.
reveal yourself, brother.
just
Please,
explain
please
myself.
ask
Okay.
her to reveal.
I
I
work-
want to see who you are. Show me
Okay.
who you are, sister.
Sister Mimi, I think it's a fair request that if you're stating that the sister's information is incorrect, it's only fair that we should be able to see yourself so that we can see who is actually questioning these facts, Mimi, rather than do it from somewhere where we can't see. We have no idea who you are. If I know yourself personally, that'd be maybe a slight difference, but because this platform is available to everyone to come on the platform, it's only fair that if you question the sister's points, that you should reveal yourself. So sister, I'm going to give you an opportunity to reveal yourself so you can have this honest, frank discussion. We're not afraid of having this honest, but it's got to be done with respect to each other and love, because we're only one community. So Mimi, I'm going to ask you to turn on your mic, your camera, and then we can have this discussion, sis. If no, I'll give you 5 seconds, sister. If not, we will have to remove you and put you back. No, we're not going to take you off the program. Just put you back as an attendee. So Mimi, 2 seconds, 1 second. Okay, Sister Jarita, if we can put Mimi back in the attendance. Thank you so
Mimi, sorry, can I just say something? Mimi, show your face. You're claiming that you work for the Home Office. You're claiming that you have clear information and direct information. Just reveal yourself, sis. Can you
hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you,
Okay.
sis.
Miss Wilson, I'm not here. Miss
Wilson Downey.
Wilson, yes. I'm
Wilson
not here.
Downey.
Miss
Wilson Downey, address me correctly,
that's
please.
fine.
Thank you, Miss
fine.
Frank.
Sorry, I couldn't see it clearly on the screen. I'm not here to argue or fight with you. I'm not a troller. I'm not one of these people who spend their time on the internet looking for people to make conflict with. I don't waste my time on frivolous matters. If I didn't have anything constructive to add here, I wouldn't actually take my time to be connecting and looking to correct the information that you're giving. The information you're giving, it has good content, but it's not accurate. And that's the only reason why I'm here, to clarify a few points. So I don't see what my appearance has to do with the fact that I'm here to clear up the information.
You're scared to reveal yourself because
okay,
you're
so
an agent.
let's move on.
You're scared to reveal yourself.
So I'll just highlight a few points, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Right. So the information that you're giving the people is very valuable, and I appreciate you taking the time to go around and educate people. I have seen your face, on a few different platforms.
Well, it's a shame I
where
can't see
you're
your
sharing.
face, isn't
So-
it? It's a shame I
so
can't see
that's
your
fine.
face, sis,
That's
because
fine. Whether you
you're
see my
scared,
face or not, it won't help us.
but you're
will help
scared
us
of
is
people seeing
information-
who you are because you're
the
an
information
agent.
that I'm just
I will
about
find
to
you.
I'm just
I will
about to
find
clear
you.
up with you. Okay, so I'm an advocate and I work on behalf of the Home Office. They don't
You're a
employ me.
volunteer.
Thank you
You're a
very much.
volunteer. You
Thank
don't
you.
work on behalf
No,
of the Home Office.
allow me to
Advocates are
finish my
volunteers. Be
sentence.
honest. Okay, go
Allow me
ahead.
to finish my
Go ahead.
sentence. Is that okay? Right. So the
Go
information
ahead.
that you are given, and I would like people to listen very clearly. The information the lady is given is 80% correct. But if you don't have the main points, you'll be wasting your time submitting an application to the Home Office. What you do need to know before you submit your application form is, one, whether you have been impacted by your immigration status. That's number one. As a primary claimant, you must have arrived in this country before the 1st of January, 1973, like the lady said, which is very correct. However, if you arrived in this country and you've not had any hiccups, you've not had any obstacles in your way in regards to your status as a British citizen being questioned, i.e. your work was stopped, you were not entitled to health care, your bank account was frozen, you lost your home, and also you were not entitled to move around freely. You weren't entitled to the benefits normal citizens are entitled to. Then, because you've come during the period of 1973, 1st of January 1973 to 1988, okay?
That's not true.
Well, allow me. I did say that I'm giving you the information that is accurate. But please listen. If you have not had an immigration question on your name, yes, sir.
Yes, sis. And I thank you for your spirit, sister. If you can, because obviously time is going, if you could just make one or two very succinct points.
So the main points you need to know before you apply to the scheme is not because your parents came here, they weren't impacted, or they were and they didn't choose to apply to the scheme, then you can still go ahead and claim ahead of them. If they have not presented themselves, you are not seen as a valid applicant. The scheme is based on immigration and having your immigration status in question. As a result of your immigration status being in question and you were inconvenienced, you were detained, you were deported, you left the country for longer than 2 years and you were not allowed to re-enter. If you have had problems with the government questioning your status, then you have two options. Well, there are two tiers to the scheme. The first tier is you can come forward and you can claim to have your status reinstated because you are a British citizen and you're entitled to that right. You can go ahead and claim and get your passport. Now, once your citizenship has been cleared up and solidified, then you can move forward and say, I want to claim compensation for the suffering and the inconvenience that the government of the UK has caused me as a citizen coming from a Commonwealth country. And I arrived here during the period we mentioned earlier, and I have been inconvenienced in those ways: no healthcare, no work, lost the home, I was detained, deported, all these problems that people have had. Then you are able to go and have your claim looked at and be compensated because of that. Now, those people are called the primary claimants. They are the main people who were affected. The second lot of people are close family members. If you're a close family member of that person or those people who have been affected, you are then eligible to go forward and said, I supported them during the period that they were having that crisis. Due to the government's neglect and hate, I spent X amount of money on them for them to live, their food, and everything. I paid for their healthcare, their travel, whatever it may be. There could be one of you in the home, there could be 16 of you in the home. If you all contributed towards keeping that person afloat whilst they were in this country or even abroad, you are entitled to claim because you were impact. They call that impact on life. If you look on the form, you will see that there.
One second, Katie. 1 second, Katie.
Yes.
Sister Mimi,
Yes, sir.
can I ask you a personal question, sis?
Please do.
Yes, sis. My personal blood brother, due to the impact, because he came in the 1970s.
Yes.
70, prior to 73, and obviously because of this whole Windrush scandal, it destroyed his livelihood, it destroyed his marriage, it destroyed him being able to work, it destroyed him being able to go to the doctors, it destroyed him being able to find the living, literally just to, you know, to sign on. Yes. I personally had to look after him for 3 years plus. In my personal home, and as you just said, because he cannot claim for anything, he's got no finances, I had to look after him personally for 3 years plus. Would I be entitled to under what you've just stated there?
Did you say did you say the gentleman was a brother of yours?
Blood brother.
100%. Has he claimed anything, or has he had his status cleared up?
Yes, yes.
Okay, will he be right? He is 100% eligible to claim compensation from the Home Office, UK government. If he's got his citizenship sorted out, that is the first step. That tells you we did wrong. The government would say this. We did wrong. We are eligible to make you legal and eligible in this country, and we owe you because we did you wrong. He can claim his compensation, yes, if he gets somebody to help him. I don't know, you know, how he is with the English and stuff like that. I mean, obviously you speak good English, but you need somebody who's a bit sharp to complete the form for you nicely. As a result of that, once he puts his application in, you can then piggyback off him because he is present in their eyes and on the system. So you now can present yourself to say, well, I'm one of the people who supported that applicant. That yes, you 100% can claim for impact on life, and you are the relative of a primary claimant. You are a close family member. Yes, 100%.
Thank you, Mimi. And I must say this to both you sisters. You see, sometimes there may be disagreements, there may be different levels of understanding, but we are one family. And I'll say, Mimi, I'm being very honest. I love your spirit, sister. I don't know you. I can't see you.
No, it's fine. Like I said to you, my face has nothing to do with the honest information I'm giving you. And you can go on the website. As I said, the lady is doing very good, but by missing out the salient points, the information then becomes
I'm waiting
misleading.
for you. Sorry, can I just interject? Please just let me interject, please.
Well, 1 second, Katie. 1 second, Katie.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me just say this, okay, brothers and sisters. It's okay to disagree. Believe me, life comes out of friction. Yeah. So even if there is a disagreement, you know what? We're still family. We're still brothers and sisters. And it's all about sharpening. So, Katie, I'm definitely going to give you this moment to respond. Definitely.
Thank you. So let me just say this. Number one, Mimi can't reveal herself. Now, transparency is key. If you're sharing information or if you're stating to someone, if I said, oh, brother Andrew, sorry, but what the information you've just shared there, it's not quite correct. This is my understanding, right? I would reveal myself. She's hiding herself because she has something to hide. Now, I said to her, I have my pen and paper ready because, look, I don't believe that I know everything. Okay, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to listen. I asked her to list the points that she believes that is wrong that I stated in my presentation. She hasn't said to me, right, this is the point. Oh, that's the point. There's not one point that she's raised.
No, I'm not here to criticize
sorry,
you.
Please let me finish.
Mimi, let her finish.
Mimi. Yeah, Mimi, you're not here to criticize me, but your first initial comment was everything that she is saying is incorrect. That's what you said. Well, the chat's there for everybody to see, okay?
The word
now,
everything wasn't included.
Listening to your voice, I can hear that you're a mature woman. You're probably old enough to be my mom or my grandparent. You should know better. So actually, this is what has happened, everybody. Now, this is what has happened. The Home Office has employed ambassadors for 1 year in 2018. These ambassadors from the community were supposed to be given information to help them develop the way that they assess claims. Now, these ambassadors that were paid for 1 year, they claim that they work for the Home Office. Let me tell you this, these ambassadors are actually volunteers. So they were paid for 1 year and they volunteered for 3 years. Now they love to say, I work for the Home Office, da, 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 da. Well, guess what? Where have you been for the 4 years? Why has nobody in the community heard from you and the other 39 ambassadors for the last 4 years? Why is it taking me one, to come out and give the information to the community? The community don't have the information. I've been doing these events for over 1 year, and the only organization that have ever funded me so far is the Nation of Islam. Okay, nobody else has ever funded me for these events. You know what I done? I funded these events myself. I've been around the country. I will continue to go around the country. The last time I done an event was on Saturday, and I go to North, East, South and West London, and North, East, South in the west of the country as well. I also do online events to our family members in the Caribbean as well, because my passion is about the community and making sure that the word gets out to the community. I've studied this myself. I put the presentation together myself. I initially asked the Home Office for help, and do you know what they said to me? They said, we'll give you £1,000 if you put our logo on your flyer, if you allow us to provide the catering for your event. I said to them, do your caterers make West Indian food? They said no. I said, why would I have them at my event? I said, furthermore, why would you provide your white caterers £200, but you won't give me £200 to buy Caribbean food off Caribbean people for an event for Caribbean people? So they then said to me, well, let us come to your event and we'll answer the questions. So it seemed like they wanted to hijack my event. So I said to them, you see your little poxy £1,000, take it. I'm good. I'm really, really good. Do you know why? Because when you move with the Spirit of God, then nothing that is formed against you will prosper. Mimi, there's a reason why you won't show your face, because you're actually scared to show your face in case there's any. Sorry, let me continue. In case, exactly. Now, if your face has nothing to do with it, then reveal your face, sister.
All I'm saying is,
ambassador, sorry, let me finish. If you're such an ambassador and you're such a great person and you're all of this and you're so highty-tighty, reveal yourself, sister.
Who's saying who's
highty-tighty? You can't reveal yourself. Sorry, let me finish. You can't reveal yourself because you have something to hide. Now, the reason, so I saw in one of the comments, why am I being so defensive? Do you know why? Because I'm defending my community. These people have been working or volunteering for 4 years and nobody ain't heard of her. They ain't heard of the so-called pastor that made a video about me. He's old enough to be my parent. He's a male. Why are you trying to call out women on the internet? That is not only a weak move as a brother, but it's a weak move for the community. It doesn't serve our community any interest for us to go back and forward on this video right now. It serves nobody no interest. But never guess what though? The thing is I'm a transparent person. So if I see in the comments that someone's telling me that my information is not correct, I'll welcome you on to have a discussion with you. But seeing as though she wanted to hide and stuff, I don't appreciate that and I don't respect it. However, I am woman enough to say, well, come forth and tell us what's wrong rather than ignoring the message. These people had a meeting about us on Thursday, which my colleague Cheryl Phoenix had to intervene in the meeting. She had to intervene and she only learned about the meeting because they were having a secret meeting against us. Now, let me tell you this, the reason why they are vexed is because they've been funded, they've taken the funding for the Windrush Community Fund, where they've all received thousands of pounds to do what I'm doing, to do these events in real life, and they haven't done no events. Do you know what they've done? They've colluded false information to say the black people are not interested in this scheme and they've kept the money for themselves. The Home Office awarded a white company, white people from up north, £1 million, you know, £1 million out of this scheme's money to give to white people who said they can't do events because in the events nobody turned up. The Home Office paid people, We Are Digital, £1 million, who had an event in Lewisham Council last year and 2 people attended. How many people attended my event in Harlesden? Over 1,000 people, almost 2,000 people. How much was my event? Free. How much funding have I got? Zero. Wow. This is why they're mad. Now, one more question, one more comment. Yes. So the ambassadors who even say this on their videos, actually, you know, we're concerned about the backlog of the applications for the Home Office. Well, never guess what, Mimi and the ambassadors and the Home Office and the rest of you agents. Us community people are not concerned about the amount of applications that the Home Office receive. We are concerned about the amount of money that our community receive for the suffering that we've been through. And listening to your voice, sister, I know you ain't no white woman. I know you're a black woman. I know you're a black sister. Do yourself a favor, take yourself out of that coconut shell and put your community first. The Home Office haven't done nothing for you. Our community is what is important, not the Home Office. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Woo! Wow. 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 No. Wow. Sister, I felt you. Mimi, no disrespect to you, sister. You know, I felt your spirit, Sister Mimi. You made some, you know, but the sister said, you know, we wanted the list of where the sister was incorrect. I still didn't hear that list.
I can't say nothing because they don't know the scheme.
And Mimi, pure love to you, sister. You know, you've answered one of the questions that I wanted to ask, and you answered it for me. But sister, Katie, I'm telling you, sis, it's the first time I've met you, sister. And I'm just saying, I salute you, sis. I really,
Thank you so much.
It's not hard. It's not easy to work for our community, beloved. It is. If you study the history of Malcolm X, if you study the history of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, if you study the history of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, if you study the history of the Honorable Bob Marley, if you study the history of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and so on and so on and so on, you know, our people are sometimes, and I don't say this with any form of disrespect, sometimes our people are our worst enemies, beloved. And Mimi, I am not talking about you, sister. I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about what I've witnessed trying to help uplift our people. And so, Sister Katie, I just have to salute you, sister. I really do have to salute you. It's the first time I've met you tonight. And I definitely, on behalf of the Hidden Truth, sister, want to invite you back on the platform, not just talk about the compensation scheme, which is fundamental that we get tabs on this. But sister, I would like to invite you back because there's many other issues you touched on that touched me personally. And you've got the mouth of our people in your heart, sister. And so I'm looking at the chat line is on fire right now. People just singing, everyone's going crazy, beloved. And what I loved about you, sister, you're not afraid to defend yourself. Yeah. I don't know, as I said, I'm not an expert on the compensation scheme. I know nothing about it in reality, but you know, you was not afraid to defend yourself in any of the questions. We had a whole lot of questions lined up for you, sister. You've answered all of them. We had someone who wanted to come and put their evidence against you. You was the one that called for that to take place. We're obliged, and I can see, sister, you're not someone who's shirking, not someone who's hiding or apologizing for what you're standing on. And so, on that basis, sister, Hidden Truth, you've passed the test on our platform, sister.
Thank you, brother.
All right, my queen. What's your closing words to us, sister? You got 2 minutes.
My closing word to this, thank you everyone for attending. As I said to you at the beginning of the presentation, which some people may have missed, anything what I've said, research it. Anything what anyone tells you, whether it's me, Brother Andrew, or anyone else, always research it. The information that I've given you can be tracked by the references that I've put on my presentation and by the government website. To Mimi and to any agents and to the Home Office, you have to bring someone with a bit more fire in the belly, because Sister Mimi, that was a bit embarrassing for you and your Home Office cronies. What I can say though is, in future, try and be for the community and not for the Home Office. The thing is you can try and fight me, but you won't win, because I move with the Spirit of God and the community have my back. You might have the Home Office, I've got the community. You're not going to win, sis. So you either continue to see my progress and the community's progress and think, you know what, let's work together, or you just think, you know what, this sister's too much for me, it's not going to work. It's one or the other, sis, because that's all it is. I will never be defeated. But thank you so much, brother, and may you all continue to have a very good evening.
Brothers and sisters, this is the Hidden Truth Show. You heard it for yourself. This is a platform of right knowledge. We are not afraid of disagreement, brothers and sisters. Understand this. Sometimes when we disagree, We have got to unify even in our differences. Yeah, show respect, show love, put your case forward, but understand this, brothers and sisters, with friction comes life. No friction, no life, brothers and sisters. And so this is a part of our community. We're evolving, we're maturing, brothers and sisters. And based on that, you know, don't feel disheartened, beloved brothers and sisters. This is a beautiful chapter in our development here in the UK.
Absolutely.
And if it's your first time onto Hidden Truth, know that we are here unapologetically to stand up for our people, give you the reality of what needs to take place. Brothers and sisters, this is Katie lick shot. Brothers and sisters,
Brother Andrew, before Katie
no, Katie,
goes,
don't laugh, sister.
Brother Andrew,
Yeah.
before Katie goes, it's important that everybody knows that she will be in Croydon December 10th. The details are in the chat. For those of you familiar with Derby Road in West Croydon, Katie will be there live. But if not, you can attend via Zoom. All of the details are in the chat. It's between 12 and 6 p.m. UK time. But equally, as I said, you can attend via Zoom. And these details will be shared as well after tonight's show. Go ahead, sis.
Sorry, it's December the 11th. It's on a Sunday,
Sorry.
so it's okay. It's 7th day. I do usually do my events on Saturdays, but it's the 7th day Adventist Church, Derby Road, Croydon, and it'll be from 1 till 6. And what we will be doing is I'll be doing the presentation in person, but then also what we will be doing is supporting people to complete the forms. It's time to support people to complete the forms, because prior to this session, the session that I done on Saturday, I've always just done the presentation and give people guidance. Now we're going to be doing the presentation and supporting people to actually write the forms as well. But I'm really sorry for the conflict that you saw me in. Hopefully that won't happen again.
Sister, I've got to stop you there. No,
but please let me
apology.
finish. But
No
listen,
No
for
apology.
any time that anyone tries to come for me, understand that I will always defend myself. I will always defend the truth, and I will always defend God as well. So please, you know, if people are trying to come and fight me, make sure you're strong enough, you know, because I'm a very tough sister. Thank you very much.
All right.
And I stand corrected, December 11th. Apologies, December 11th. But I've got it as 12 till 1. I'm sorry, 12 till 6, but it's 1 till 6, sis. Is that correct?
Yes. If people turn up at 12 or 1, that'll be fine. I'm going to be there from around 11:30 as well. And this is a hall that has a capacity of 2,000 people. So I'm sure that if you come in the thousands again, we're going to be able to seat you, and you're going to hear the good word, and you're going to have an opportunity for one-to-one as well. We're also training volunteers as well, so that we can help as many of our community to actually complete the forms. Where are the ambassadors doing this, please? Where are their events? I'd love to hear about it so I could support them.
I must say, sister, this compensation scheme, as I said, my brother has been personally affected by this whole situation. So I've been in track and in touch with this whole Windrush situation from a personal point of view. In fact, to go further, Channel 4 actually came to my house, and my brother was actually on Channel 4. I'm not going to, say his name or anything, but my brother was on Channel 4, and he became one of the so-called poster boys for the Windrush scandal. So it's personal for me. And I must say, and this is no criticism of anyone, that, until yourself and Shell Phoenix stood up, not much was really being done in my eyes in terms of making sure we knew about, who was eligible for this. I must say, and I'm going to say this again, Mimi, if you're listening, I am not calling you an agent or anything like that. That's not come out of my lips, and that's not from my heart. I think that you sounded very sincere, sister. So I don't know you enough to call you an agent. But as Sister Katie stated, that she's gonna stand unapologetically on what she understands to be the truth. So brothers and sisters, we're all about unity. I know some people say, Brother Andrew, come on, man, this can't be all love all the time. And I know within love, sometimes there's going to be differences, but I'm going to state again, as a people Don't let us divide and rule, brothers and sisters. Don't let the enemy come in and divide us. We are people that love, we disagree, but we're going to unite under all circumstances, even unite in our differences, even in our differences. But Sister Katie, once again, love, lick shot, fire upon Babylon, bun and cheese, ackee and starfish. Come on, my sister. You're done on your tongue.
We're just out in sunny Portugal.
Thank you.
I'm wanting to say, Guan Papa G.
So you done noise, you know, we talk about the Guan Papa G. What does Guan Papa G stand for? Positive attitude produces awesome greatness. And that's what I felt from Sister Katie. She was definitely a member of the Guan Papa G generation, man. Shot from Babylon with no apologies. Brothers and sisters, what a show tonight.
What a Guan Hidden Truth family. We're here in the Gambia. Sister Yvonne and Sister Angie from Agatoj. We've got something to say. Guan Papa G.
Lick shot on Babylon. Brothers and sisters, never, ever, 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 ever give up, man. We've got soldiers like Sister Katie. I think the dangerous part of tonight is that now she's connected to Hidden Truth platform and she's got an army. We always say this. There's an army you see and there's another army you don't see.
Yes, sir.
Man. Don't get it twisted, man. And this sister tonight has got an army you cannot see. But we're going to be there for when she shouts out. We're going to be there, brothers and sisters. So, brothers and sisters, we thank you so much. It's been a powerful night. It's been a... Sister, are you happy to do a part 2 with us? Even if it's on a different subject matter, are you happy to come back to this platform?
100%. I'm happy to come back to either do a part 2. I'm happy to come back to speak on other subjects as well, because I'm very interested in many different subjects that directly affect our community, but also general subjects as well. So please do. My background is psychology, sociology, social work, community activism, politics. So if anyone would like to host some subjects or suggest some subjects, I'll be happy to come back either to debate or to share my knowledge on it and of course learn as well.